Welcome to Running for Real, a global community with a shared love and curiosity for running. Together we reconnect with the reasons why we love to run and discover ways it helps us become better people. Whether it's the quiet moments of a morning run while the rest of the world still sleeps, or befriending the strangers next to you at the start line of a race, we are here to connect with others who see running as the common thread that weaves our lives together. Come join me, Tina Muir, as I talk with people from all walks of life, united by a love of running. Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 423 of the Running for Real podcast. Thank you for joining me today. I'm excited that you're here. And as you are listening to this, we are just a few days away from the 2024 TCS New York City Marathon. While I won't be running this year, I'm feeling kind of sad about not running it. It's the first time I haven't run it in a while. Obviously, this is due to my Achilles return to running. However, I will be doing the Abbott Dash to the Finish 5K and my Trashka, and I'm kind of excited about that. But that said, it is still the marathon weekend, and I wanted to have us do a marathon-focused episode for today. You're going to get to hear a lot about climate-related topics related to the New York City Marathon. However, there is so much more to this, and it's just a fun, feel-good episode, regardless of if you are going to be in the city for marathon weekend or if you're not. It is going to make you feel good. So today, I'm excited to welcome the CEO of New York Road Runners, Rob Simmelkjaer. Rob is a two-time New York City Marathon finisher himself. He had a 9-year tenure at ESPN. He's been an on-air contributor for ABC News, ESPN, NBC Sports, NBC News, and MSNBC, CNBC, and the Tennis Channel. That is a lot of letters there. So we are going to hear from Rob and his role. As we are friends, I was not easy on him. I didn't throw him softball questions, so you're going to have some questions he hasn't been asked before, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. So I hope to see you this weekend if you are around in the New York City area. If not, enjoy this episode. Let's get to it. Did you hear the exciting news that Precision Fuel and Hydration is now the nutrition sponsor of California International Marathon, CIM? That's where I ran my PR. I love that race, and I know so many of you do too, and now they are working together. It is a dream for me. I am so excited to see it and hear about it. Now, with Precision, I've been talking about them for a long time with you. I've told you how their gels, you don't get the flavor fatigue because they have this very neutral flavor, the original that is. And then the mint and lemon is very like palate cleansing. Mint is also really good for you to have during a struggle part of a race. And it tastes really good, especially the two together is a very refreshing mix when you have those chews. So I've told you about my love for the chews and the gels and how easy they go down. It is not a kind of uncomfortable taking it down. I really do enjoy them. And also the hydration. I love their pH 1000 that I use every day in my drinks to make sure I am topped up with electrolytes. And as I am getting back into training, I'm excited that I'm using more of these again, and I can get back into training so that I can have my next race be fueled by Precision and make sure that I can knock it out of the park because they really get it. And if you don't know how much of each thing you should be taking, how many carbs, how many gels, how much electrolytes, they have a free fuel and hydration planner that can figure it all out for you. Absolutely free. You can also have a free 20-minute consultation if you like. There's lots of links in the show notes, but I would encourage you to go to precisionfuelandhydration.com/Tina. That's going to give you a 15% discount code. You can also use code Tina sent me. Go check it out, precisionfuelandhydration.com/Tina, or use code Tina sent me to get 15% off, and go check out that fuel and hydration planner. Rob, welcome to the Running for Real podcast. We finally made this happen, and it is perfect timing, although maybe not so perfect timing with the marathon a week away as we record this. Thanks for being here.
Tina, it is perfect timing. I am thrilled to be here with you 9 days before the TCS New York City Marathon. This has been a dream. This has been a dream, as you know, to come on your podcast. And it's finally coming true. So there's simply no bad time. It's great to be with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That is good to hear. And yeah, it is not what I expected when in 2022 you came in as the CEO at New York Road Runners. I did not expect you to be. I mean, I had read you came from the media world, but you love a bit of podcast. So I am happy to hear that you love being the host. From what I see of Set the Pace, the New York Road Runners podcast. Yeah,
I love it. It's true. I'm glad that comes through. I do. And you know, when we started our podcast, Tina, the reason that I thought we should have one is because I know how many unbelievable people, fascinating people are coming through our ecosystem week in and week out, not just for the marathon, but, you know, we have 40 races a year that we put on at New York Road Runners. We have close to 80,000 members of the organization. So there are so many amazing people in our world, so many inspirational people, great stories. We'll never tell them all. There's so many, but I thought, hey, if we do one podcast a week, like, and at least we can scratch the surface and start to talk to some of these people and help inspire others to run and to keep running. So it's been great. I've had so much fun. First with Meb Keflezighi, of course, is my co-host now, with Bex Gentry, and Meb's still involved. We've had so many great guests, yourself included. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you. I think am I one of a few that's been on twice? I feel like I have
I think there are only a couple. You, Dakota Lindworm has been on a couple of times. Ted, of course, Metellus has been on multiple times to talk about racing, marathons and whatnot. But yeah, there's like a small handful. So you're in a select club. I hope you appreciate that.
I love that. I hope, like with SNL, when I get to come on 5 times, I get some kind of special celebration jacket or something.
Let's not get crazy, Tina.
See.
Let's just take it one step at a time.
All right. Yeah. I want to continue with that. So, you know, having been an on-air contributor, see, I nearly said it the English way and then I had to switch to the American word, contributor, to a lot of major publications, TV platforms in the past, and with your work at ESPN, getting to do the podcast, I'm assuming that fills some kind of void for you. Coming into this role at New York Road Runners, what were some of the things early on that you noticed were quite different to roles that you had in the past?
Great question. You know, I think the biggest for me is really the internal part of the job, and having a staff of over 250 people that I manage, obviously with our senior leadership team. I think that the internal side of it, the messaging, the leadership, the inspiring our team and our staff, and also dealing with things that come up. You know, anytime you've got 250 people, you working with you and working in an organization, you're going to have things that come up. You're going to have, you know, moments where, you know, the staff, you know, has needs or questions or concerns or whatever it might be. And so I've obviously led teams before, but I think leading a team this big was definitely, you know, a new thing for me. And then also, I had never really worked in a nonprofit before. You know, I had been on nonprofit boards, and I, you know, had certainly been comfortable in the nonprofit sector. But having the first time you work at a nonprofit, being as CEO of the nonprofit, like that definitely was a thing, right? So I had some things to learn about how one talks about a nonprofit, you know, and whereas I may have said something a certain way at ESPN or NBC about, you know, a new project or an initiative or something like that, here at Roadrunners, you know, focusing on the mission and the mission of what we do as a nonprofit, as an organization, was something new, but also amazing for me. It was a big part of the reason I took the job, was to have that ability to be focused on mission and not on profit. So that was an adjustment, but it was one that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, no, I could see that. And it was probably, I mean, I got to meet you pretty early on. You actually weren't even officially CEO when I first met you, right? When you attended our flog
Yeah, that's right. I came
time?
on. That was my little stretch before I started at the 2022 marathon. I'd already been announced as the incoming CEO, and yes, I came to. That was one of my first events. Actually, was coming to a plog with you and Ali Crisculo, our director of sustainability, and I had a great time. And I've been an avid plogger ever since. As you know, I plog every chance I get. Sometimes you don't even know, Tina, that I may just be out plogging by myself somewhere, and you don't even know about the plogging that I'm doing, because I try to keep it quiet.
All right, I need to see some evidence of this. If you were doing this in the New York City streets, we need to see some evidence, because you could walk 5 feet and pick up quite a lot in some areas, and maybe others you could go a whole block or two without seeing anything. But I am glad to hear that. Keep doing your avid plogging, and for anyone listening to this, you're probably going to be too late for the plug we are doing the day this is released. But every time there is a New York Road Runners major event and I'm around it, I will be doing a plug. So, and we'll be getting Rob to join us in some capacity, which
Appreciate
you do.
Appreciate that.
Okay, so then with this, coming into the running space, you were, when you took the role on, a two-time New York City marathon finisher. Tell us about where your running was when you entered your role at New York Road Runners.
Yeah, I had been running for sure. I always am running, but I hadn't really been running races. It had been a while since I'd run. I hadn't run a New York Road Runners race since the 2013 New York City Marathon. So I had not been in New York races for a while. I had run a lot of races in Connecticut. There are a number of local races where I live in Fairfield County, Connecticut, that I would run pretty much year in and year out. So I'd probably run 2 or 3 races a year, 10K here, 10K there, sort of a thing. But yeah, I hadn't really been running tons of races. And obviously coming in, Tina, it was just impossible not to. I mean, I love running races. And of course I was attending a lot of them. And, my feeling about attending races, and, I'll speak at the starting line and say a few words maybe. And then I love hanging out at the finish line and giving out high fives to the finishers. But it's hard for me to be at a race and not run. I just don't, I need to be active. I don't want to just watch other people be active. So I have run a lot of our races since I started, and it's been awesome. And my running has felt a lot better since I've gotten all these miles in.
How much of your relationship to running did it change at all in those first few months of getting to be around runners and be talking about running all day long?
Yeah, I think it did. I think it's kind of like the difference between casually dating and being married, seeing someone once in a while, hanging out, saying hi, having a fun time, and versus every day and tying your life up with someone, right? So it really was that difference. And I think I came to appreciate it a lot more in a lot of ways, because I met so many people for whom running was really central to their lives. And I really started to learn about the kind of impact it made on people's lives, and would hear people come up and tell me what road runners meant to them, what running meant to them, how running had, in a lot of cases, saved their lives, sometimes literally, in some ways. People who'd had illnesses and their doctors told them, I think your running is the reason that you were able to get through this, or who had difficult periods in their life, challenging things, maybe it was an illness, a divorce, lost job, whatever it might have been. And they would say, running really got me through that. So I started to realize the impact that running could have. And I always knew, but to see it and to hear about it from so many different people, I think made me even more of a believer in the sport than I had been before. And then I also started to feel it myself, because the more I was running myself, I started to feel great, feel physically great. And, obviously there's the mental health aspect of it as well. I'm not just the president, I'm also a client, I think was the phrase of the guy in the commercials way back when. So anyway, I definitely have dived back into the sport in a way that I probably hadn't really been since the couple of marathons that I ran, and since I ran cross country back in high school.
How was it different to you in the way that you said it saved people's lives, it changed people's lives, the relationship people had with it? How was it different to other sports that you'd been around, worked with? What did you notice?
It's a good question. I think the thing about running is a couple of elements. Number one, there's the control part of it. I think that you really do have the ability, not always perfectly, but more than in a lot of other sports, to kind of control your performance. And what I mean is you really do get out of it in so many ways what you put into it. It's not perfectly formulaic, but you train to, try to run and improve your time or run a certain distance. You have to be realistic in what you try to do. But, when you have a realistic goal and you put in the work for it, you can see that happen for you in running, and you can really control when you run, how long you run. You can make choices about what you want to do, and there's ways to really kind of plan it and control it in ways that you don't have in other sports. I played baseball growing up, and also been a pretty big tennis player for my life, and you can't control as much in those sports. You can do all the work and put in all the training in baseball, but there's just stuff that happens. You run up against a really good pitcher, or you get a bad bounce, or like things happen. And they happen in running too. You can have a hot day, a warm day, but in the larger scheme, I think you kind of control running. And I think the thing about not being against another person, you're not playing against someone, you're not playing against a team, you're not playing against an opponent like you do on a tennis court. It really is so much you and the race. And yes, of course, if you're racing to win, you're racing against someone, but I don't think it's the same. You're not hitting a ball back and forth with them. You're not trying to hit a pitch they throw or tackle them. It's both of you against the course, right? And whoever has the best day wins, but you're not interacting with them in that way. So I think that it's individualistic in a lot of ways. But then, Tina, the other thing I will say is I did realize the group dynamics that can make running special. I got really involved in our group training program at New York Road Runners. I run 1 or 2 times a week with that. And I had been a solo runner pretty much my entire life. Like since high school or whatever, I've always run alone, and I still do, mostly just because of time commitments. But I really did start to discover the power of running with other people, and how that can push you and make you better. And that's not something I really had appreciated before.
Yeah. Especially living in New York, there's unlimited options of, whatever interests you have that intersect with running, you're going to find it there. And what you at the beginning, and maybe you still do, you said you do that twice a week, but just in general, at the beginning, you kind of went to quite a few of the groups to kind of show up and be there and be a part of what they were doing. What did you notice about the way it made people feel and the way that it changed their running as you started to go around these different communities?
I had so much fun going around, Tina, and visiting different clubs. We have over 500 clubs in New York that are affiliated with New York Road Runners. And we started this program called Run with Rob, where the clubs would sign up and I would show up and go on a run. I'm going to start getting back into that a little bit after the marathon. And you're right. There are so many different types of clubs, clubs that are really serious and competitive clubs that are more social, clubs that are focused on a certain demographic or, male, female, whatever it might be. There are clubs that are focused on dating. There's all kinds of stuff, but they all had something in common, which is just, they all the runners felt that they really got something out of running. They knew that it made their lives better. It was fun for me to go and be with those groups, because I think it was just a chance for me to kind of wave the flag of the organization and ask people, what do you like about what we're doing at New York Road Runners? What do you not like? I got a lot of feedback, so I always took my feedback back to the team, and that's meaningful for me, because I like unfiltered feedback. I can always hear from staff or from someone, what's going right. People like to give good news to the CEO, but I like to hear what's not going so great, and that's I definitely got plenty of that when I was out with the runners. Heard from them, their feelings or frustrations about certain things. The main one being that so many of our races are sold out right now. And so they were wondering how to get into races, and I gave them the best advice I could, but it was great for me.
Thank you to Runna for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast. You have heard me talking about Runna. It's the #1 rated running coaching app in the world. They are on a mission to make running as easy, effective, and as enjoyable as possible. You heard Rob talking about this, how Runna was his companion. It helped him to get ready for Berlin, how he ended up running a PR after many years of not running marathons. Runna is really going to take you to where you want to go. Yes, I am still returning from my injury, from my surgery, which means I am not ready yet to jump on a runner plan, but I am excited to do that. They create personalized plans for all abilities, ranging from those of us who are starting our running journeys from scratch, as I will be soon, or if you are even from the very beginning of your journey as a couch to 5K runner. They go all the way up to elite marathoners, and the plans are built by Olympic athletes, expert coaches, and they are not only going to have your runs on there, but your strength and conditioning plans. It's going to have integrated mobility and Pilates plans. It syncs with your calendar. And best of all, you can connect with other like-minded runners in the community section. So you have heard myself talking about Runna. You've probably heard other people talking about Runna. It is fantastic to have these personalized running plans just for you. They use AI to tell you what it suggests that you should be doing next. You can also reject or accept those suggestions as it goes through the training plan. It's going to sync with your devices, give you all kinds of support. And you, as a friend of mine, can get yourself 2 weeks for free by using code RUNNINGFORREAL. That's running, FORREAL, running for real. And that's going to get you 2 weeks off a plan with Runna. Go check it out. Rob loves it. I love it. I can't wait to use it. And it is well worth a look. Look up the Runna app, RUNNA. That's RUNNA. Go check it out and use code RUNNINGFORREAL. Yeah, that's a difficult problem to have, right? Because you can't exactly solve it. But it is obviously a good thing for the organization to be, people want to be there and you're obviously doing things the right way. With that, I'm assuming you met a lot of different people. And one thing I really wanted to ask you about was so much of our running world, and you and I have talked about this before, so much of our running world is focused on what the people at the front are doing and the inspiration that they give. Look how fast that person ran. Look where they finished. Look at this full-time job they juggled with their elite training. But I'm assuming you also met a lot of people who don't get the press releases and the kind of recognition that the elite athletes do. Can you share some people who you've come across or how that has been different for you, not coming in? And I think you won't mind me saying this, you weren't like dazzled by the elite athletes in the way that I think not most people in the running space, why a lot of people are. You were inspired by the other people and many other people who weren't at the top. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, Tina, you're 100% right. I mean, of course, I have tremendous respect for the elite athletes and have gotten to know that world better. But you're right. I did not come into this job as a fan of elite running. I was not following Runner's World to see who competed how and who was setting records. It was not on my radar screen. What was on my radar screen was people I knew who were running races, right? I was donating to my friends' charities who are running this Berlin marathon or this Chicago, New York, whatever marathon. So I knew of my friends running. And that was what I thought was interesting. And still, to me, is what's most interesting is all the people who show up at the starting line of the marathon or any of our other races and the story of why, what got them there. And I mean, there are so many, I don't really know where to start. I mean, I can tell you a few kind of personas or prototypes that I think are really common. One is definitely the runner who got into it during the pandemic, right? The pandemic runner, right? The ones who maybe they ran a little bit here or there, but 2020 came along and there was nothing else to do and nowhere else to go. And they started running and they needed it to stay physically and mentally in shape. and discovered it and have just kept going and going and going. That's probably one of the most common prototypes that I've met. And I think the reason that we do have such demand for so many of our races right now, and that takes all kinds of different forms, but there's definitely a big part of our population now that really discovered the sport through that. There is the runner who maybe was serious when they were young. Maybe they ran cross country, maybe even beyond that, but kind of burned out, walked away from it for a long time. Maybe they went and had kids and careers and all that other stuff. And then something caused them to maybe rediscover it, a little bit later in their 30s or 40s, and were able to develop a new relationship with it that they liked more, So it was almost like the ones who got back together with running, right? They broke up and said, I don't want to see you again. I was too intense. It was too much for me. And they thought they were done, but something brought them back and they stayed with it again through that. So that's another prototype. And then there's just the full on annual marathoner or multiple times a year marathoner. And those people are incredible to me. Our streakers community of 15 or more marathoners, the 6-star community, those who have or chasing the Abbott World Marathon Major 6-star. And those are really dedicated marathoners. I look at those folks and I'm like, okay, you're at a level I'm not at. I am not really a marathoner. I ran my third marathon ever in Berlin recently, as you know. But, I don't see myself running 20 marathons. That's not, my body is not necessarily made for that. And the ones who run 3 marathons in the fall, and 3 in the spring, I look at that and I'm like, wow, how does that even happen? How do you do that? So, there's a bunch of different prototypes and our sport, it works for all of them. And you mentioned the back of the pack crowd, Tina. And that's what I love most about what we do at Roadrunners is how long we keep our finish lines open, whether it's a 10K in June or the marathon at 9 p.m. We just welcome and celebrate all these folks, and they are just as excited to get to the finish line, and they have accomplished just as much, if not more, than the people who come in at 6 minutes a mile. So I really love those folks, and I try to make a real point of being there as late as I can be there to give out the high fives to the folks who are run walking or walking even throughout the entire race.
Yes, no, definitely doesn't go unnoticed as someone who has done that. I did that in the half with Kaylee this year, and then in the marathon last year, I saw how much it means. It meant to her and her mom, Sandy, who, yes, referring back to Set the Pace. If you want to listen to Sandy and Kaylee, you definitely should go back and do that. But also, the seeing how much that means to them, but also seeing the joy that those people coming across that line towards the back, because you can see how much it means to the runners, it reflects it back to the people watching or the people standing there. I always, last year I got to come through the finish line party, the final finishers party. And this year and every other year I go and watch it. So I'm excited to go back and watch it again this year, because it is, if someone is listening to this, you are in New York this weekend, go to the final finishers party. It is one of my favorite moments of the year. So
yeah, when the sun goes down in Central Park, that's when the lights go up and the music starts, and we start celebrating those folks who are coming in, 8, 9, 10 hours. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, bringing it back to your running for a minute. You mentioned there that you ran Berlin. And interesting, because I was going to put you in the third bucket. When you were describing your buckets, I thought from your social media, you are coming across as a serious running nerd right now. So I think you're working your way over to that bucket. And so you ran Berlin recently. When was the last marathon you ran?
Before Berlin, it was 2013, Tina. So I hadn't run one in 11 years.
I know. Yeah. And so what had you learned in your time at Roadrunners as you were going into training for that, as you were going into the race? What had you learned that you wanted to make sure you took into race day as you prepped for it?
Well, the first thing I learned was just how hard it can be to get to the starting line of a marathon. As you know, and I don't mean that day, I mean in general, because I had tried to run Chicago the year before, I think you may know, and I gotten hurt, and wasn't able to even get to the starting line. So I had a better plan. I had a better base of miles underneath me when I started training for Berlin. So just thinking about like a reasonable plan, right? And how you don't want to build up your mileage too dramatically, too quickly, because that's how you get hurt.
For Chicago?
I did. Yeah. I think that what happened with that is it was partly starting the job, right? And I started running a lot more because I was with road runners and the group training and all these races I was running, which I hadn't been running before. So my body was running a lot more. And then when I started stretching out to longer distances, it was like, yeah, enough of this. You're doing too much. So I did have a more gentle slope up to the marathon distance, which was good. And then I had so many people helping me this year. My coaches at our New York Road Runners group training, Ben Delaney, and the whole amazing team of coaches we have with group training. Then I had the ultimate luxury of having a guy named Roberto Mange, who many of you may know was the former head of coaching at New York Road Runners. He still works with us as a phenomenal consultant and a former Olympian. And he runs with all kinds of amazing people. And so Roberto stepping in to run with me and help me train was incredible. He gave me a great training plan. I also used the Runna app that we have at New York Road Runners.
Also a sponsor of this podcast. So thank you, Runna.
Oh, great. So Runna was huge for me, to be honest. They gave me a great training plan. I followed it really closely. Runna thought I was very, very fast, apparently, based on the half marathon time that I gave it from what I had run in June. And was giving me some tempo runs that were just more than I could really handle, to be honest. But the speed work was right up my alley and perfect. And the long runs, it was great. It really helped me out a lot. So I had a good plan. I had great people with me. And then, just showed up and had what I learned about race day. And I learned this actually from Dakota Lindworm, because I listened to her on a podcast. I don't think it was even ours, but it was some podcast. And she talked about going into the Paris Olympics, having an A, a B, and a C goal, and so she kind of set herself up for success, right? By having that first goal be an achievable, attainable one, and then a B and a C. And so, that's kind of how I approached Berlin. I said, all right, let me have, my A goal will be, whatever, under 3:30, which I had done before, but it had been a long time. My B goal was to run a PR. My C goal was to, run even faster, like a BQ kind of a time, right? And so it worked out great, and the day was great. And I ended up setting a PR. Didn't make the Boston time, but that's okay. It was awesome. So I had a really great time. And Roberto, man, he really pulled me through, because the last couple of miles, there was some serious cramping going on. My right hamstring was done. I had to pull off the course 2 or 3 times and stretch. It was getting bad. I was getting worried about walking a mile or two there at the end of the day, but it was so much fun. And the folks in Berlin did such a great job on their 50th anniversary race.
I watched the video in prep for this of you finishing, and I actually really liked that you put that up, because you can tell you're struggling. I like that you weren't, so many people would hide that and say, you'd shared the finish video or the finish picture, I can't remember what, of, I did it, and everyone does that. But I like that you actually showed, like, you can see you're struggling. And so it was actually nice to see that, I think for many runners, we only see those finish line pictures and you don't see the moment before. So it was good to see someone in your position who could have easily just shown, look how great I am, also showed I had to work for this.
I appreciate that. That last little bit, when I saw the Brandenburg Gate, I was like, oh my God, okay. I think I can get there. I had serious doubts about whether I was going to get there for the mile and a half before that. But Roberto and another Roadrunners member who we kind of ran into during the race really kind of willed me to the finish line. And then, that last little quarter-mile stretch it was funny because it felt to me at that moment like I was just sprinting, like I was flying, because I had been going so slowly the mile and a half before that. And then when someone sent me that video, I was like, oh my God. I was like, I was really struggling there. Which is how I felt. So that was definitely my honest finish. And it felt amazing though. It was more emotional for me crossing that finish line actually than it had been, even for the previous two that I had done. I don't know why. I think it was more of a struggle. I was thinking about my girls a lot the last couple of miles, my daughters, and my mom as well, who, my mom's had been in some tough health the last couple of years. So I was thinking a lot about stuff like that when I crossed the finish line. And it was definitely one of the more emotional finishes that I think I've had.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that as well, because that's, it was obviously okay for us to sometimes, and especially, for a man to share that you were emotional and it meant a lot to you and you were thinking of other people, not just like doing this for your own ego. That's a lot. So I appreciate you sharing that. I'm not going to ask you what's next because I feel like people constantly ask that. But I will ask you, has that scratched the itch, or has it kind of scratched the mosquito bite so that now it's even itchier?
Yeah, I run a marathon a decade, and if that,
you're going to continue that.
There's kind of a reason for that. Like I run these marathons. I was like, great, that was awesome. Maybe I'll do that again in a while. I think I'm good, although it's just funny when you're in a job like this, because the next day in the hotel, I ran into my friend Yasu, who's the race director of the Tokyo Marathon, and I'm going to Tokyo. I'm going to be there for their marathon next March. I hadn't been to that one yet, so I'm definitely going to Tokyo. And Yasu was like, "Oh yeah, great job. So we're going to see you in Tokyo. You're going to run it?" And I was like, Don't. Let's not do this. Let's not have this conversation.
Oh, that doesn't sound like a no. I'm not. That sounds like a definite. I don't know. I'm thinking about it.
I don't know, Tina. I'm not sure. I've never trained in the winter for a marathon. I've only done, obviously, fall races, New York and Berlin. So I don't know if I can do that. I mean, in some ways, I know it's easier. You're not running in the heat and stuff, but it's too dark. It's dark all the time. And I don't like running on treadmills. And I just don't know if I can do it.
Well, now you've made it sound even more that you should be pushed to do it, because you're literally asking for a challenge. So do you respond to, I don't think you can?
Yes, I do. So don't say that to me. Yeah. Because then I'll totally do it. I don't want to be pushed that way. I'm going to run the Ted Corbett. We have a 15K in December, the Ted Corbett. It's a great race. So I'm definitely going to run that in December, see how I feel. I have not run much since Berlin at all. I've been super lazy and obviously really busy getting ready for our marathon here on November 3rd. So we'll see how I feel at that point.
I try to eat all the fruits and vegetables I can in my diet, but I'm also not perfect at it. I do enjoy my foods, and sometimes that means choosing things that aren't packed full of vegetables and fruits, because that's what life is about, right? Fueling our bodies with whole foods is important, but every one of us is going to have nutrient gaps, including me. And that is why I start my day with AG1. It ensures that I'm filling any nutritional gaps. It means I can enjoy going out to eat and not feel pressure to eat a certain thing, because I know I'm supporting my whole body health by starting my day off with a scoop of AG1. AG1 is a foundational nutritional supplement that delivers daily nutrients and gut health support and is backed by multiple research studies, so you can trust what you're putting into your body. I trust AG1 because, unlike so many products, the entire formula is backed by research studies, not just the ingredients. AG1 is packed with a variety of nutrient-dense ingredients and is the perfect complement to every healthy diet. I drink it every day because I know it gives me peace of mind. I can tell when my body isn't functioning the way that it should, particularly when it comes to digestion and my gut. Recently, they found in a research study, AG1 doubled the amount of healthy bacteria in the gut, including 2 species known for supporting gut and whole body health. If there's one product I trust to support my whole body, it's AG1, and that's why I've partnered with them for so long. It's easy and satisfying to start your journey. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase at drinkag1.com/Tina. That's drinkag1.com/Tina. Check it out. I think that sounds like a good plan, but I have a sneaking suspicion that Tokyo will end up on your agenda. Not through any doing of mine. I didn't challenge you. It sounds like you're already getting there. Otherwise, you'll get your marathon. By the time you get your marathon majors, the 6-star, it'll be like 12-star by then, and you'll.
That's true, and I'm definitely not going to do 12. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
So okay, so moving on to, I want to talk about. Well, firstly, I want to thank you for all the advocacy and the support you have given to Ali and Lou, your sustainability team, to Erica with the environmental initiatives that you have really helped to push for and to support and publicly speak about. Is climate, and actually, I was there at the beginning of this year when at Running USA, you did your keynote speech on climate change, which I think I told you this. I expected you to completely fluff this talk. I expected you to just be very like fluffy and not really say much, but you actually were very bold in that conversation, and I really admired the way that you did that. You brought Ali up afterwards to answer any specific questions people had. You tolerated me calling you out from the audience when you said trees. Well, I can't remember the way you said it. Trees, not teas, or something. Trees for teas. Anyway, so you have put yourself out there for environmentalism. Is that always something you've felt passionately about, or enough to speak on?
Yes, it is. Although I don't think I was ever really in a position to do much about it. It's something I've always cared about. I mean, certainly I did things from a personal point of view. I tried to live a sustainable life. It can be really hard, to be honest, especially when you get kids who are constantly bringing in stuff and the stuff. I actually, funny story. It was my birthday earlier this week, and one of my daughters bought me a T-shirt that said, "I hate stuff, but I'll keep this T-shirt." Yeah, it was a great T-shirt, and it's so true. That's really been the thing with me, is like I just don't like stuff, and I want to keep everything as minimalist as it can possibly be in my life. It's always really bothered and pained me to throw things out and to see my trash bin just overflowing. So yes, it's always been the way I've tried to live my life. I think when I got to Roadrunners, it really dawned on me pretty quickly that we have this amazing organization with this great mission to make people's lives better and make our city better, our communities better. But of course, what we're doing has an impact. I mean, what everyone does has an impact. And we needed to really get serious about that. Not that we weren't before. I mean, we had Ali and a great team that was doing amazing work when it came to making our events as sustainable as they can be. But I saw so much opportunity to do more. And the organization had been coming out of, COVID and a lot of changes with the organization. So it hadn't been something that had been easy to focus on for the last 4 or 5 years. And so I saw a real opportunity for us to jump in with both feet. I even thought that there were other races, other majors that were showing the way in some ways that we could do better on. And so I did make climate kind of the focus out of the gate, and just kind of started with the obvious point of, hey, this event we're putting on every year has a pretty significant carbon footprint. We got people flying from all over the world to run this race. We've got, people traveling. We've got all the stuff that we're doing to put the event on in New York, and the transportation to the event and all that. How can we work to lower the carbon footprint of this event? And it took, a little while. We had to brainstorm a bunch of different ideas, but we came up with this idea of Team for Climate, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And it's been a really good step forward for us.
Yeah, I do want to talk about, as I recorded some videos recently, I know to say New York Roadrunners Team for Climate.
That's right.
That's been seared into my brain.
Our lawyers appreciate that, Tina. Very good.
So yes, what is New York Roadrunners Team for Climate?
So it is the first entry method that's been created by any of the World Marathon majors that is focused on offsetting the carbon footprint of the race. We had about 250 runners who were able to get into the marathon this year, and they made a commitment to help us raise funds to offset our carbon emissions for this event. And we already had a pretty good sense of what our footprint was. The funds that are raised by this group are going to an awesome project with an organization that sets aside land in upstate New York. So we love that it's a New York-based project. Mm-hmm. And they are setting aside land that's going to be protected from development and will remain forest land that will obviously have this impact that all forest land does of capturing carbon from the atmosphere and helping clean our air and all of these things. So it's just a great way for us to use one of the things that we know is precious in our community, entries into the TCS New York City Marathon, and develop this community of people who are committed to making this a sustainable event. I am so excited, Tina, for Race Week to meet the group of people that have composed NYRR Team for Climate. Thank them for everything they're doing. I know they're going on a plug with you as well. But this group has done incredible work. They've raised nearly $800,000 through this effort. And so, I mean, it's just incredible what they're doing. And thanks to that, we're going to be carbon neutral as an organization within this year. So that's a huge step forward for us. And, you know, we know it's not an immediate sort of solve for everything that we want to do, but it certainly was a big step in the right direction.
Yeah, no, and I want to mention a few things. One being that the original goal for the amount of money raised was 600,000. So currently, as we record this, it's 170,000 more than initially set as a goal, which is amazing. Will you share how quickly when it opened, how quickly they went?
It was unbelievable. I remember talking to Allie that day and saying, okay, hopefully this goes well. And we put them on sale at noon. And at 12:05, I got a text saying they were sold out. I was like, wait a second, what? Did something go wrong? What happened? No, they were sold out in, I think it was 2 minutes and change. Mm-hmm. All of these spots were gone. Now, that's, of course, a testament to how hard it is to get into the marathon, obviously. Mm-hmm. But what I've seen is that it wasn't just that they wanted to run the marathon, but these folks actually wanted to do this. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to have an impact. And that you can tell by the amount that they raised, which was so far above the minimum. So this is a group that clearly really is passionate. We got all kinds of people in this group, and yeah, it's been an incredible thing to see, and such a great success story for us. So I feel like it's scratching the surface of what it can be, but it really did make a dent out of the gate. Yeah.
I want to mention for anyone who is listening that if you are interested in it in future races, it will be, what's the right order for this? The United Airlines NYC half is first.
Yes.
Yep. And then the RBC Brooklyn half is in June?
May. Yeah.
May. Mm-hmm. May. So both of those will have Team for Climate options. So you can pay attention for when those are available so you can join that. And then I want to mention that it's not just about the money donated. New York Road Runners goes above and beyond environmentally to be constantly evolving the environmental principles and initiatives that are being done. But also the Team for Climate runners are taking the Staten Island Ferry. So they're taking the most sustainable method to get to the start line. There is a tent, but it is, there's no tablecloths. There's no additional extra things. There's no carpet. There's a lot of things that make it, the most sustainable option for these runners.
Yes.
And Rob, would you like to share what they will be wearing on race day?
Yes, they are going to be wearing these great Team for Climate, NYRR Team for Climate singlets that will look great. They are going to be, kind of showing their colors and what they've done to help us do this. So yeah, we're excited. They're going to wave that flag for us. Yeah. And they also, by the way, you mentioned the tent. The tent they go to and at the starting area is going to be super sustainable, powered by solar generators, and all the catering and everything is going to be sustainable as well. So yeah, they're going to kind of have the most sustainable possible experience that someone can have running our race at this point. So we're really thrilled, and hopefully we'll learn some things from them, actually, because I think there are still a lot more things we can do to make not just the marathon, but all of our races more sustainable. Tina, one of the most common questions I get when I visit groups of runners is, can we have an option not to get a shirt as part of the package? We give away shirts for so many of our races. And so that's something that we're working on. And that's where the whole T's, not trees, trees, not T's. See, I still can't say it right. It's something about not T's, trees.
Not tees.
You plant trees instead of getting a T-shirt.
Yeah, there you go.
Trees, not T's. I don't know why I can't figure that out. It's like a little bit of a tongue twister for me. But anyway, that's another step we can take. So a long way to go, but this is a great step forward.
Yeah. And so if you are watching the marathon on Sunday, look out for the Team for Climate runners. They do stand out. As the first person to have put one on a few months ago, they stand out. They are the climate stripes. So for someone listening, if you've seen the kind of blue, dark blue moving to light blue, moving to red stripes that you might see on some environmental, conversations happening, or heard the climate stripes be mentioned, those are literally on the jersey. So you will get to see those and they will stand out. So make sure you cheer those people on if you see them go by you. Anything else you want to say about Team for Climate?
No, other than thank you. Thanks to this group. Can't wait to meet them. And there'll be opportunities to do this again and again in other races. So anyone interested, please go check it out at NYRR.org. There's a whole page for Team for Climate. Yeah,
love that. Okay, so then looking forward, you have the marathon in 9 days as we are recording this. There's not anything really that can be done at this point to prepare for that. But what is something you're excited about for 2025 with the year that's coming, and now that the more you continue to settle into this role?
For the next year, just more kind of new things that we can add to make our running community happy, to help grow it, to get people moving and excited. We changed our mission statement, relaunched it not long ago. That was part of a big project. And we now talk about our mission, which is to create, healthier lives and stronger communities through the transformative power of running. And we're really kind of zeroing in on our message as an organization, making sure more people know what we are, that we're a nonprofit, that we aren't just the marathon, that we're doing this incredible work 365 days a year. One of the questions I'm really glad to see I haven't been getting as much of lately, but I was getting when I first took the job, is whether being CEO of New York Roadrunners was a full-time job. People would ask me, well, what happens after the marathon? Do you just take a 6-month vacation? What do you do? And I'm like, no, we are doing stuff all year long. So I think people are starting to get a better sense of who we are and what we do. And so we just want to keep doing, spreading that word and making that impact all year long. The youth stuff, I think for me, is what I get most excited about. We've got now almost 100,000 kids in New York City, almost 200,000 nationally, who are part of our Rising New York Roadrunners program, which is incredible. And so seeing that grow makes me feel great. We're approaching, as the moment we speak this, we're approaching 80,000 members of our organization, an all-time high for New York Roadrunners. So that makes me happy. That's just, there's so much good stuff going on. But as I sit here today, 9 days before the marathon, what I'm most focused on is just a safe day, a healthy day, a day where everybody comes through in a healthy way, and that we have a positive day for New York.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I can't wait to see everyone out there next week. It is just such a party. Anyone running, you're all going to have the best time. It is such a beautiful celebration as you work your way through the boroughs. And Rob, thank you for all that you continue to do, for being the advocate you are for climate change and environmental activism. Look forward to seeing what happens in the year to come. But hopefully everything goes nice and smoothly for you next week. Thank you for joining me.
Tina, thank you. I really appreciate it. Great to see you.
Before we go any further, I just want to give a quick shout out to the Running for Real team. Without them, I would not be able to do barely anything compared to what I'm able to do today. They are behind the scenes. They are there for me. I am just so appreciative of them. To Jeremy Nessel, our podcast editor, audio consultant, and someone who's been with me since the start. To Sally Pontarelli, our content and operations manager, who is there day to day doing all the things to help me be successful. To Kelsey Wang, our head of design, and Louise Murphy, our associate designer. And finally, to Sandy Gutierrez, our photographer and content strategist. I am appreciative of all of you and wouldn't be able to do what I do without you. Thank you so much for listening to that episode with Rob and I. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you had fun. And if you are in the New York City area this weekend, I hope we have a chance to cross paths. If you are not, and that is okay if you are not, most people listening to this are not, and that's okay. I hope you have a great weekend, whatever you have planned. Remember, your running does not define you. You are a beautiful human just as you are. I've had to learn this lesson myself going through my Achilles return from surgery. I want to take a moment to remind you to check the links in our show notes. You can go to runningforreal.com/episode 423. You can also find links there to our sponsors. Thank you to Runna. Thank you to Tracksmith. And thank you to AG1. There will be links there. I will see you next week.